Good evening, guys. This is the first official Pontificating with Pete since I've officially moved to the Florida Panhandle. And I apologize. Of course, I wasn't doing the show the last 2 weeks. The first one was when I had just relocated to the area. It was a little late at night. Didn't think it would work. And then, of course, I was sick, very sick, as if you guys remember, the week after. It was difficult to get through a couple of those shows, but if I'm only sick once every other year, I'll take it. Try to maintain the healthy lifestyle, as I often stress on the show. Lightsaber, we're going to get into that very quickly. Happy Sunday evening to all of you guys. And for anybody who I guess has been watching Due Dissonance, which I believe will be concluding soon, I hope you'll all find your way over here. At least some of you will. And so, yeah, every once in a while, I think it's necessary to get some of these thoughts that I think a lot of us are sharing at this time, especially in lieu of everything that has been going on. But there are a number of topics that I do want to cover this evening. Most importantly, I know everybody has very strong opinions pertaining to Candace Owens. I certainly do. I think she's very career-oriented, which is why I think most of the things that she does, she puts front and center in terms of her financial interests. So there's reason to doubt the validity of frankly, most of her takes. I find that to be true of just about any content creator who bases their opinions and decisions almost solely on that of where they think they have audience capture. We see that with TYT. We see that with Tim Pool. We see that even with somebody as big as Mr. Beast. And Candace Owens is certainly no exception. But she has been exceptionally consistent on the issue of Israel-Palestine. Now, what was it that ultimately made her make the jump from the Daily Wire and to venture out on her own? Perhaps it was business related, that she felt that she could succeed doing this herself. And I certainly don't fault her for that if that's what she thought was in her best interests. So it's entirely possible that she did have a revelation of some kind. And when she brought it to the attention of the likes of Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin, it did not go over very well. And I have many thoughts as to why that is the case. Tony, 11 months. Thank you so much. Yes, I can certainly give you a Bernie shout out, and I think Bernie is going to be in the news quite a bit in going forward. And the reason why Bernie is going to be in the news going forward is because he has indicated that he will very likely give confirmation unless something unforeseeable happens, but is leaning towards confirmation on RFK for HHS. So we'll see what ultimately ends up happening there. And that's okay. Don't worry about it, Tony. I definitely got your point, and I appreciate you all being here. Again, I know that there is still a little inconsistency with this. Jen took her light bulb back. No, I actually do have, if you guys can see, well, you can't see it because it's facing me, but I actually do have a light now. I actually do have a means of being able to throw some light on me while I'm doing a live stream. So hopefully I'm not as shiny, or that I look okay. I wish I had a little bit of a better studio setup. Of course, that's one of the things that you don't have anymore. But one thing that I think I will probably invest in at some point, and if you guys have any recommendations that you want to make, again, the camera that I'm using is directly off of my MacBook laptop. So I'm certainly willing to get a camera if you think that that would possibly make things look better. I'm certainly open to that. Thank you, Josie. I appreciate that. But having a professional look is always good. And certainly Jen is ahead of me at this point in terms of her camera quality. So I do think that that is definitely something in the future that I'm going to need to invest in. And I have no problem with that. But as I was saying, we definitely have to get into this story regarding Candace Owens. And the reason being, and we're going to pull up the article now, is that Candace Owens has been named Anti-Semite of the Year by Stop Anti-Semitism. Poisonous hater, as she is called. It certainly takes a lot to garner this award, and Candace, in her very tongue-in-cheek approach to dry humor, has said, I'm going to have to come up with a speech to accept this award. No surprise. But as it is stated, firebrand pundit Candace Owens has been named Anti-Semite of the Year by watchdog Stop Anti-Semitism. For those of you who have no idea who Stop Anti-Semitism is, trust me, you really don't want to know who they are. They are merely a front person for the Israeli lobby. That is all that they do. Everyone who doesn't go along with what Israel is doing right now is an anti-Semite in their eyes. Certainly with somebody like Candace Owens, who has the platform that she has, this is not going over very well. And there's a reason why they did this, but we'll get to that in a minute. Which says, blew the competition away with more votes than anyone in previous years. Candace Owens' witch's brew of anti-Semitism drew from vile medieval blood libels, including claims that Jews drink Christian blood, conspiracies that Jews are pedophiles who control the media and are taking over America. I'll let you all form your opinions on these points. And modern toxic anti-Israel hysteria. Stop Anti-Semitism's founder, Leora Rez, told the Post. Guys, if anybody would like to look up Leora Rez and fill me in, because I had no idea who that person was, and very much so, free Palestine. Thank you, David. Sometimes the enemy of your enemy is your friend, however begrudgingly that it may be. I've been on record as saying that there are a lot of takes that Candace has that I do not agree with. And it's obvious that there are probably not too many crossover points, but certainly with this populism, there is. And so one of the things that is of note has been how vocal she has been when it comes to, as I alluded to earlier, two of the particular leaders, if you will, at the Daily Wire, of course, Ben Shapiro and also Dave Rubin. Two men who are Jewish and have been very outspoken in their support of Israel and what they are doing to Palestine. Now, for Candace, this was a non-starter and she simply would not accept it. So she spoke up very defiantly in many ways, and ultimately it did cost her her position at the Daily Wire, which was a very well-paid position, I might add. Now, she's gone out on her own, and she's certainly doing well for herself, no two ways about it, but it's still a risk nonetheless in terms of your brand. What sparked her to go down this road, I can't say for certain. But remember, when you get to that level, there's a lot of things that people like Candace are exposed to that we're not. So there's no telling what those Daily Wire meetings may have been about. There's no telling what type of things that she may have heard or were being said. I believe that Candace has her flaws, deep flaws in many respects, but I also believe that she does have these sort of core principles that I believe that she believes in, even if I don't agree with them. Yes, Holly, that is exactly what it is. And for those of you that are here, if you haven't smashed the like button, please make sure that you do. Try to get back into the thick of running on these Sunday nights where there aren't too many people going live at this time, but it's convenient for me to do this. This is the one night of the week where I do have some downtime that I feel it makes sense to do it. And so if you are not currently a supporter at patreon.com, make sure you get over there for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty channel. But most importantly, make sure that you smash the like button and make sure that you get this out there to as many people as you can. It is certainly appreciated. Any effort that you make to help us is certainly going to be appreciated. So we had our esteemed colleague, Colin Tooley, put together a clip from Candace's interview the other night. This is what prompted Stop Anti-Semitism to name her Anti-Semite of the Year. But this was a very, very telling story. So for those of you who are not too familiar with the USS Liberty and what that has meant regarding the protection of the state of Israel, going back to the year 1967, which in many ways was the inflection point when it came to the state of Israel. I'm going to pull this up now, and here's what happened during Candace's interview.
We're doing exactly what they were doing. When they overflew us, they took the pictures of all the ship. They knew exactly what to hit and when to hit it. And I might add, uh, I believe, and I think most of my shipmates believe, that this attack was planned a year in advance.
A year in advance?
Yes.
What makes you say that?
Well, there was another spy ship in the area, USS or the SS Valdez. It was a civilian manned ship, but it was owned by the Navy. It could have done the same thing that we were doing, but they took them out of the area. Sinking the USS Liberty is a hell of a lot sexier than sinking the Valdez.
Why is that?
Well, it's all American sailors and Marines. They wanted this at the bottom, and so they could blame it on the Arab states and bring us into World War III.
That is one of the key talking points that has been floated, but as has been pointed out many a times, a lot of American soldiers have been threatened, especially those who were crew members of the USS Liberty at the time that it was attacked by Israel. And one of the thought processes, much like the war in Vietnam, which had been going on pretty much following the conclusion, as I would put it, of JFK's assassination. And 4 days after the assassination, LBJ had officially committed an arsenal of troops to Southeast Asia. And so we ultimately knew that this is what was going to transpire as a result. The war in Vietnam would officially kick into high gear from the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Well, the USS Liberty is a very similar incident that took place just 2 years after. Gulf of Tonkin was 19. I want to say, guys, fill me in. I believe the Gulf of Tonkin incident happened at the beginning of 1965. I'm pretty sure that that was around the time that it happened. And so a couple of years later, we're looking back, and now this circumstance, which never gets talked about, I mean, never gets talked about. I was not aware of this, and I'm a student of history. But I, for whatever reason, did not know the full detail of this story regarding Israel attacking the USS Liberty, which my understanding on the surface was that it was done to try to draw the United States into a Middle Eastern war to ensure the entire takeover of the state of Israel or the entire state of Palestine by Israel, or create the greater Israel. So this has been in the works for the better part of 2 generations, seeping into a third now. And that's why this story needs to be told. Because while I don't think we'll ever know the full breadth of what happened on October 7th, 2023, there is reason to believe that even if Israel did not orchestrate the attack, much like 9/11 on our soil, it was allowed to happen for the political and economic benefit that would come as a result. We'll continue.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Now, it's the morning of the 8th, and you like you said, on the 7th, they took pictures, they positively identified you. You were able to hear this over the radio. Did they still have at that moment the CIA agents on board?
Yes, yes.
The NSA agents were on board, so you still got the exact same amount of people that are on board here.
Right.
Okay, so we're talking about a pretty big sacrifice they were willing to make.
Right.
Total number of people?
294 souls.
294 souls, okay. Attacking jet aircraft destroyed all but 3 of our life rafts, which we had put overboard. We were going to place our most seriously wounded in them so that they would have a chance at life. But the IDF would have none of that. They shot 2 of them out of the water and took one aboard their boats as a trophy of the kill. They continued shooting and killing my mates. They left and we thought that it was over, but it wasn't. IDF helicopters were sent with troops armed and ready to board our ship and finish us off. Then they just left. I guess the gig was up when the mighty IDF could not sink our defenseless ship. When it was all done, there were over 821 rocket and cannon holes and over 5,000 armor-piercing bullets riddling the ship. Napalm was burning us up, and a 40 by 40-foot torpedo hole was in her side, causing the ship to list badly to our starboard side. We then waited 17 hours for help. I guess they hoped that we would sink that night. Help was only 40 minutes away from us, but they left us out alone to die. When the USS America and the USS Davis arrived to help us, they took our wounded to care for them. Their wounds were so horrific, words cannot explain. Admiral Kidd boarded our ship a few days later, and the cover-up immediately began.
One of the most important aspects of this cover-up is the role that LBJ played in that cover-up, knowing full well that it was irrefutable that this was a deliberate attack by Israel on the United States, unlike the Gulf of Tonkin, mind you. But this was a deliberate attempt to sink the USS Liberty and blame it either on Egypt, on Iran, on Jordan, etc. And LBJ would have none of it. He went to bat for Israel on the backdrop of the second, or what would be the Six-Day War, I believe, in 1967. So a lot of what was allowed to happen, a lot of what was allowed to transpire, was a result of the inaction of the U.S. State Department, led at the very top by President Johnson. And all in the name of protecting what RFK has called our aircraft carrier in the Middle East. Because that's what it is. I'm not really sure religion has anything to do with this. I think this is all about money and power, like I pontificate that every aspect of politics is about anyway. But this was as deliberate as it gets. And this is a story that has been swept under the rug for almost 60 years.
We were ordered to never speak of the attack to anyone, not even with one another. Penalties would be fines, imprisonment, or worse, and we all knew that worse meant death. We have been treated like garbage for the last 57 years. Congress has been bought and paid for, with the exception, over the years, of a few brave lawmakers. Their names are Representatives Pete McCloskey, Paul Findley, and Jim Traficant. As the courageous Rep. Thomas Massey has noted, all Republican members of Congress except for him have AIPAC handlers. We can assume this is also true of nearly all Democrats. We are the most decorated ship in naval history for a single engagement. I believe God saved us that day to allow us to communicate the truth of this attack to leaders like you. We give all power to Jesus Christ. We are just his servants that horrible day and now. The USS Liberty survivors are the biggest whistleblowers this country has ever seen. We have been smeared as anti-Semitic, Jew haters, and Nazis. Our only sin is that we survived.
Very powerful statement. And I am not going to turn this into a holy war because I have no interest in that. I think you guys all know my opinion on religion. I have an affinity for the prospect that there is the possibility of God. But organized religion, it's all bullshit. And so it's been used as a weapon for a very long time. It will continue to be used as a weapon so long as people are allowing it to be used as one. But I do believe stories like this expose the very fragile platform that the state of Israel sits on right now. And while the genocide of the Palestinian people continues, the expansion into Syria is insane on its surface. But this sort of prospect of a greater Israel that they believe is possible is something that they've been seeking for a very long time. They were seeking it then. They didn't get it. Maybe that was the great compromise. Who knows? We will not engage in this regional war in the Middle East. How could they? They were in Vietnam at that point. But at the same time, by not doing so, they kept quiet. And so here we are today in a very similar situation where we needed real leadership to avoid this expansion of the Israel state, and it's not happening. We are allowing it to happen in the worst way. And that is the real danger. So I applaud Candace Owens for giving this story breath and life, which I think it desperately needs. And we're doing the same, even though our channel obviously is small but mighty. This is a testament to the fact that when you look at the MAGA movement in this country, a significant portion of them are true right populists, libertarian populists. They do not believe in endless war. In fact, they detest it as much as the populist left does. And they're not buying in to the support of Israel, which is why, as I've stated, there's a difference between the conservative right and the populist right. And that war, if you will, that political war, is happening right now in real time. Because if you can dismantle Israel, you can knock off anything. This is not a one-off type situation. This is a serious seminal moment for our nation. And the story of the USS Liberty on two fronts. The first front is that it did happen. And the second front is that it is a preempt to what's happening right now. That, to me, has a lot to do with what's going on. I appreciate any commentary that you guys think regarding this particular circumstance. I do believe that what she did say was very important. And I do think that this is a story that needs to continue to be out there, because Israel's intentions right now is to allow this to expand as far and wide as possible. And I believe we're going to get into Palantir tomorrow night, because I've been meaning to talk about Peter Thiel for a while. If you guys haven't seen, Peter Thiel looked like he was about to break out of his physical shield. And Colin, if you can, you know what, if you could grab that clip, Colin, I would like to talk about it. So I am of the belief that a lot of these guys are really lizard people. You could call me a QAnoner if you want. I don't care. But there was something physically happening with Peter Thiel that I thought was very telling. So for those of you who saw that Trump and his entourage, if you will, was at the Army-Navy game over the weekend, I want to point out something that was captured when the crowd was going through some type of a military ritual that I'm not too familiar with. But here's what happened, and I want to show you guys something. What do you see on that board, guys? I see USAA, but I see this company that not too many people are familiar with, Palantir. Do you know what Palantir is? Does anybody know? Well, Palantir is another one of those war profiteers. Very much like Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics. They're all part of that conglomerate. Those that are always going to be looking for these massive contracts. That's what war is about. War is about money and power. And I believe that those that are connected with Palantir, led, of course, by Peter Thiel, is that they're going to be able to convince Trump that this is good for business and necessary. But it's going to be done in a safe way, effective way. It's not going to hurt anybody. The idea that this is something that's going to continue to be swept under the rug, I don't see it. Me want tacos? Any thoughts on New Jersey? I think that when you see drones, and I'm from New Jersey, so anytime you see drones in the sky, you're going to think that you're probably being watched. And who the hell knows where from? But the most likely scenario is that it's our own government doing it. That's my thought. And I'm going to finish this out But as you could see, the enthusiasm for our troops is still very much alive and well. But keep in mind, a lot of these cadets are very young. And a lot of times when you're serving in the armed forces, you don't necessarily have the opportunity to spend a lot of time doing research on any of these multinational corporations and what their intentions are. You see USAA, you see Palantir, you really don't know what to think. However, Peter Thiel did go on with Piers Morgan. And I'm telling you guys, I'm not conspiratorial. I just base things on rationale and fact. But I got to tell you, there's something very sinister going on with Peter Thiel in this clip. You'll see.
Who think this shooter is a hero because he did it because he said this healthcare executive was presiding over a healthcare system which kills thousands of Americans by denying them cover. What would you say to them?
Peter Thiel has a history of, when confronted by a topic that he does not agree with or flies in the face of everything that he does in order to make a buck at the bottom of the barrel in our broken system, he gets flustered and he freezes, literally freezes, doesn't know what to say. But this is not like most times. This is a different circumstance. This is, and Ray J, don't complain about commercials. We're trying to grow our channel. Every little bit counts. Remember, you let them play, especially if it's only for about 10 seconds. So watch his face.
It's I don't know what to say. I think I still think you should try to make an argument, and I think this is you should, there may be things wrong with our healthcare system, but you have to make an argument, and you have to try to find a way to convince people and change it by that. And this is not going to work. And, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, there are all sorts of things one could say about it, but I don't think, and I think
it's like, honest to God, he is trying not to break out of his human suit. That's what I see. I see a guy who's trying to stay inside. I see a creature trying to stay inside the human suit. That's what I see. That is probably somebody who did not anticipate that Piers Morgan, of all people, was going to ask him a question about whether or not the American healthcare system is a failure. For all the flaws of Piers Morgan, and he's got a lot of them, he's from a country that has universal health care. He has no leg to stand on to argue in favor of the for-profit system that we have. He probably doesn't even care. You're right, Bill. Think critically or be in the fog. That's it. And in this critical moment, you are seeing the CEO of Palantir not know what to say. Because remember, everything in this country, everything within our political and economic system is interconnected. Much like war, healthcare is connected just the same. One of the biggest reasons that the working poor end up joining the military is to get healthcare. That is a big issue. Being able to get a free education, that is another big issue. So, like I said, it's this really unique puzzle piece that we can't fully explain. And that, to me, is a huge component in all of this. That's why he doesn't know what to say, because he doesn't want to get caught saying, you're right, it isn't such a good thing. And then you have one of the richest, most powerful people in the country saying, yeah, the American healthcare system is fucked up, because it is completely irredeemable, inexcusable for anyone not to support a single payer system at this point, where it's too exposed at this point. And he, of course, is probably very scared and a person who doesn't really know whether he's safe to go out in public. We'll finish it up.
I think the motives feel. I don't want to go into all the particulars here, but I don't think I don't think there's anything heroic about him.
He looks, honestly, it looks like part of his face is going to explode. That's what I see. I see a face that's just, bleh. Like I said, he really didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to say. Because what is there to say? Of all the components of our broken economic and political system, there is no defense of the for-profit health system anymore. There's just not. There is no coming back from this. And if your representative, like mine, well, formerly mine, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, now no longer Matt Gaetz, but will ultimately be Jimmy Petronis very soon, they don't support single payer. That's the problem. So when you're bought by the corporate special interests, you just have to know that virtually every single one of our representatives at the federal level do not support single-payer healthcare because it goes against their donors. They're donors who make a boatload of money investing in these for-profit health systems. Do you know who the largest shareholders in United Health are? State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock. So as we've said, this is one big interconnected puzzle. And the only way we're going to get out of it is if eventually we get one of these dominoes to fall. I believe healthcare is the closest domino that can fall. I do think that we have a chance. We definitely have a chance. But we have to step on their throats, and we have to keep it there. There can be no letting up on this. Relentless pursuit of a single-payer healthcare system is the only way this is going to happen. And on top of that, this is one of the reasons why they're trying to ban TikTok right now. So for those of you who've been paying attention, and I'm sure you all have, Luigi Mangione has become somewhat of a folk hero in many ways, a phantom, kind of like the Dark Knight, a symbol that represents a lot of this change that we seek. And so there have been a lot of creative clips that have been shown on TikTok as of late pertaining to their support of Luigi, free Luigi. Well, I've seen a few. This one is really good.
Hey there, Luigi, what's it like in New York City? I know when you get to prison, you got something planned for Diddy. Yes, you do. You're my little vigilante boo, my Italy do. Hey there, Luigi, if they seat me on the jury, promise I'll get you off easy. You could buy all the McFlurries that you like. First, let me get you a disguise. Next time you want fries. Oh, it's what you do to me. Oh, we're nuts for Luigi. The prison yard seems pretty hard, but I could bribe the prison guards. I'd raise them up if I had no other way.
Well, I don't know how you think you're going to rizz up prison guards, but the sentiment is still very much appreciated. And yeah, this is funny and it's creative and good play on words and use of a sampling of an old song. And ultimately, this is going to have proverbial effects across the board because it's going to connect. If you guys saw what happened, I know that Jordan had played it on Status Quo the other day. And Colin, if you want to grab that clip as well from the concert in Boston, everybody going absolutely bonkers when Luigi's image was put up on the big screen, yeah, he's turned into a folk hero. Yeah, there's a reason why corporate media is dying, David. Let them say that single payer isn't going to happen. That's what we expect them to say. They are paid to say that we will not have that. But I don't think people really understand how pissed off. The people in power do not understand how pissed off the population is at this point. That they are not going to be taking this sitting down. Let ABC News say that single payer isn't going to happen. Yeah, it's not going to happen unless we break the system, but I feel like the system is closer to breaking than people realize. Because people are, you could see how many people are willing to just throw their shit down and say, I'm not playing in this sandbox anymore, because the sandbox is quicksand. Because that's what it's become. Well, it always has been, but now it's just so obvious we can't even pretend that it's even worth trying anymore. It's like we want to kick over the table and try something else. Indefensible, especially when it comes to healthcare.
Luigi, I can promise you that by the time that we get through, the world will know every CEO's name, and you're to blame.
Otherwise, that's the road that people are going to go down. So much as Travers says, it's not an electoral thing anymore. It's becoming a revolution. And that is what it's becoming. This is turning into it because, like you said, ABC News is saying, yeah, your single payer isn't happening no matter what you do. Okay, fine. Well, guess what? You're going to get a hell of a lot more people that are going to go down the road of Luigi Mangione if you're going to tell them that, yeah, we know that this system is broken and we don't give a fuck. We're going to continue to do what we're going to do. But the people certainly don't see it that way. How do we know? Because this happened the other night in Boston. Any volume, Colin?
Beginning is muted for copyright reasons.
Ah.
You gotta give the people what they want, right?
Well, he did give the people what they want, and they were very excited to see Mr. Mangione up on the screen. There's just all the jokes that come with it. It's incredible. It really is. I was not normally a Luigi guy, although I will say that when I used to play Super Mario 2, Luigi was my preferred character because he had that super jump, if you remember. I would cheer too, Donald. We do not condone, we wink. Absolutely. Well, if you remember in Super Mario 2, you could play all four characters. You could be Mario, Luigi, Toad, or Princess Toadstool. And there were different aspects of the four characters that made them unique. Mario actually wasn't really unique. He was actually very simple. Luigi had that super jump that he could do. Toad was very fast, and Princess Toadstool could fly. But I wanted that super jump, and so that's why I was Luigi. That's correct, Holly. They are not going to show his face. Why would they? It's obvious that they have to suppress. They can't maintain this illusion. Not anymore. Now he's becoming a cultural phenomenon. And once that starts to happen, it's very hard to put that cat in the bag. Now, of course, what they're going to try to do is delay the trial as much as they possibly can, assuming that it even gets there. We know that they don't want any part of that. And they certainly don't want any part of a jury trial if they can avoid that. But this is, it's the changing of the guard. It really is. So if corporate media comes out and says you're not getting health care, then the attitude is simply, okay, well, I guess you're not going to learn your lesson, so we're going to have to take even more drastic measures. People were looking for a domino to fall. It's been this way for many years now. There is a lot of pent-up rage and anger. Look at the commentary. Look what people have dealt with. I've dealt with it. I've dealt with the broken health system. And I wouldn't even consider my circumstance to be anywhere near as pivotal as some other people. Many people have lost family members, friends. People have gone into bankruptcy, poverty. And when somebody who is paid a significant amount of money for a corporate-funded network to go out there and say you're still not getting your health care, okay, well, don't act surprised when something significant happens again and again and again and again until eventually the people win out. That's it. That's how it's going to be. Colin, what is this tweet? Did I send this over to you? Not sure which this one is right here.
That's the Candace Owens responding to the Levon affair.
I have to worry about that now. But yeah, I didn't, I had a point to come on tonight to talk about a couple of these key issues that I thought was necessary. But tomorrow night, we are going to be speaking. We're going to have two big guests tomorrow. The first guest, we're going to go live at 8:45 tomorrow. So tomorrow night, we are going to have on Stephen Donziger. He is going to come on and he's going to make his pitch to our audience and hopefully spread it through clips and so forth on social media pertaining to his attempt, hopefully, to get a pardon before President Biden leaves the White House in a month. And then our other guest is going to be Jackson Rothbone. And we're going to be talking about his viral clips and how they're still relevant to this day about the Palestinian people deserving human rights. And again, how it relates to what's going on right now with United Health and Luigi Mangione. Like I said, guys, all of this is connected. And what we do with it is what's key. Jimmy, you're not alone. You're just not. I'm not gonna ever encourage people to perpetuate violence or anything of that nature, but I am never going to pretend like it isn't in the cards at this point. That people are just done with pretending that they're going to just accept the system for what it is. It has been blown wide open at this point. And the people in power are out there trying to convince you, no, it's going back to the way it was. They always assumed that was the way it was going to be. But they were wrong about the Free Palestine movement. They will be wrong about the Free Luigi movement. And they have certainly been wrong about electoral politics. Electing Donald Trump for a second time was a true fuck you to this system when you consider how much money, power, and influence trying to push Kamala into the White House actually had. That is correct. 8:45 Eastern Standard Time tomorrow night. That could happen. If they don't pass the bill, I mean, who knows? At this point, I would prepare for anything. Especially because this is a lame duck session with a transitional presidential administration. So why in the hell is it not possible? I think it's very possible. I think we should all be aware. Well, it depends. The percentage of this country that doesn't vote hovers around, I want to say, it's been as low as 50%. But it could be as many as 75 to 100 million voters don't vote. I don't blame them. What is voting getting us? Without action in the streets, there's no point. Because the powers that be have completely captured our government. So when people wonder, why doesn't anybody trust the system anymore? It's easy to see why. What is there to trust? If you know that your representatives are bought and paid for by corporate special interests, period, why would you trust it? What is there to trust? It's about an hour long, but it really hits home. I can only cover so much on this live stream, but it is very important to note this. Those are the types of things that I think matter very much. Because if you want to know what Israel and the Israel lobby and the like that support the state of Israel truly think about the United States of America, they see us as their bitch. They don't give a fuck about our country. They don't give a fuck about our people. They just see us as pawns on a chessboard and expect us to go right along with it. Because this is a Judeo-Christian country with a lot of religious psychopaths that infiltrate our political system. And there's a lot of them that are in the Republican Party. I'm just glad that there's a real populist right movement uprising right now that isn't into that shit and that is calling them out for what it is. That's what we need. We need more of that. That's why I have a lot of respect for the populist right, because they don't take shit. Whereas on the left, everyone just fucking falls in line like a bunch of fucking pussies. Well, now you're seeing what happens when you actually have balls. They don't know what the hell to do at all. They don't know any way out of this. In fact, they are so bad at this that they're going to end up causing something like single payer to happen because they're going to continue to stick their foot in their mouth. That's why somebody like Ben Shapiro goes on his podcast and completely lauds United Health and blames Luigi Mangione, and his own people that support his channel are like, you're fucking crazy, man. Do you not understand how bad this health system is? Let them keep exposing themselves because they have no other avenue to go down. They are completely and solely captured by this broken system. That's what ends up happening. Now, as I said at the beginning, that doesn't mean that I agree with Candace Owens on most of the things that she espouses in terms of her political ideology. But I do agree on this. And I would like to think that most people do. So if you do agree, then it's always, it is essential, it is vital that we continue to push that message. You don't know what you're talking about, Donald. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I'm not advocating it, but do not tell desperate people what they should and shouldn't do, because the decorum way of trying to do business doesn't work, and it never will, because again, the entire system is captured. This is not like a time where there is some populist uprising movement that can actually push on the system at this point. There's too many billionaire corporate oligarchs that now oversee this entire system. And they will stop at nothing to keep it going. Elon Musk is worth over $400 billion now. To even contemplate this type of money is insane. It just is. But if we unite along class lines, along populist initiatives, like single-payer healthcare, like endless war, there's no telling what we can accomplish. That's why we do have a lot of association with people who are in the libertarian movement, much as the progressive movement. Now, I do believe that change is possible. This is the mega gilded age. And it's always interesting hearing the perspective of somebody who isn't from this country, who is looking at us from a distance and saying, my God, you guys are fucked up. Need I say more? United Health, very much like Brian Thompson, is committing violence against the working people of this country, all in the name of money and power. Their profit, that is the problem. It's one thing to succeed in a free market system, which I believe in. It's another thing entirely to do it through the pain and suffering of others. And that's not just people. It's animals. It's sea life. The exploitation is what needs to stop. And the only way that's going to stop is when the people rise up. At some point, we will say enough is enough. And I do think that we are very close to that point. How it will unfold, I'm not sure. Again, Donald, I'm not sure. What I am saying is that Luigi has created this sort of solidarity movement on the domestic side. We had the solidarity movement on the foreign side regarding Free Palestine. And that has gone to even greater distances to try to avoid war with China and ending the war in Ukraine. And just ending this endless cycle of for-profit nonsense. They have control of the means of production, but they don't own it because the people are so much more significant in numbers. People just need to put their differences aside. In this chat, while we're about 70 deep, but we've been picking up our numbers significantly, what you will notice is that we have support, we have camaraderie with people across the entire political spectrum for the most part. Maybe not bougie liberals. But aside from that, I think we have a substantial reach in terms of agreement on these particular issues. And this is what we have to continue to lead with. Continue to fight on these fronts. If we do, and we do not allow ourselves to get distracted by nonsense, then anything is possible. Just pointing out that one of the sponsors at the Army-Navy game was Palantir, one of the biggest advocates for endless war, led by Peter Thiel. That needs to be exposed. I wish every cadet knew who Palantir is and what they represent, that they don't care if you get sent overseas to die, in this case, most likely for the state of Israel. It's all for money and power. There is nothing else. It's as tale as old as time. And it will continue until we say no. No more. It's time to change. I think we're ready. We're going to keep pushing that message. Smash that like button. Make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you share. Make sure that you comment once this live stream is over. For all of you guys that are here on Kenny Mountain, Dave Hunter, Ray J, Donald James, Jay Buggs, Travers, Jimmy Zimzam, Bill Ham, John Nada, Bass Chet, Thunderjock, Holly Horn, Adam Goodman, all of you guys. Me Want Tacos, Tony D, Battlefield, Sajid, do you think Trump under a Democratic-controlled Congress after a blue wave 2026 signed Medicare for all? Look, I look at it this way. Thank you, Thomas. Happy to have you here, brother. Here's what I think about Trump. I think Trump, at this point, all he has left is how does he truly cement his legacy? That's what he's thinking about. Because he already has it by being only the second non-consecutive term president. But what can he do now to ensure his true legacy, which is like statues and stuff? Well, he could sign Medicare for all and he could end endless war. That's what he could do. So that's what I'm expecting. I do not see a blue wave in 2026. unless something significant happens with the Trump administration in a negative way. Anything's possible. But I think a lot of people are just tuning out. This two-party system doesn't work anymore. And while there are still people who will participate in it, and it's still possible that a blue wave could happen, simply because there's still a lot of people who haven't gotten out from that yet. It's possible. But I also think that the Democratic Party in a lot of ways is a rudderless ship at this point, especially in places that are non-coastal elite cities and suburbs. But like I said, we'll see. Time will tell. One can hope. Chris, in the grand scheme of things, the USS Liberty was a minor incident that never got covered properly. Remember, the entire intention was to try to create a full-scale regional war like is being attempted right now, and is certainly succeeding a lot more than it ever did back then. The compromise was to keep us quiet about it, but ultimately expanded to a much greater degree. That's what ended up happening. That is correct, Effie. As I said, we do not have a government that answers to its people. It answers to corporate special interests, and there is a hell of a lot of corporate special interests in Ukraine. Just like there's about $8 trillion worth of natural resources in the western part of their country, which, keep in mind, is not a part that Putin has instructed his country and his army to invade. However, control of those resources is of tantamount importance to us and to Russia. And this game of risk, stratego, whatever you want to call it, it continues amongst us, China, and Russia. And it probably always will, until the people start waking up to the reality of what's really going on. So, that said, smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we ask you to do. We are tremendously appreciative of everything that you do to support this channel. It really means a lot. So thank you again, and we'll see you tomorrow night.